Now, I said when I was ready, I was going to do the story time and tell my daughter's story. If you already don't know, I had a daughter in 2021, and she passed away at 7 weeks old. So that whole time of my life was like so very tumultuous. And I promised myself, I was like, one day I'm going to tell my daughter's story. Like, I'm going to tell my baby's story. I love talking about my daughter. So back in 2021, I got pregnant with my daughter. Me and my husband just like made everything official, and we was just like on the cloud. Like, we've been like off and on for like a couple of years since like 2017. We started dating or whatever. And I remember one day we went out and we had a really bad argument, just like real bad. And I'm just like, the next day I woke up and I was like, girl, what is wrong with you? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Because I ain't even gonna hold you. I started that whole argument. Like, we was outside drinking. We had a whole family day with my son. And it just went left. Like, and I was just like, what the fuck? So I'm like, something wrong with you. Like, you need to like check. So then I started thinking, let me think. So I started thinking and I'm like, you missed your period. So the next day after that big debacle and blow over with my husband, I take a pregnancy test and find out I am pregnant. And I'm like, it makes sense why I was so angry. Like, I was just so emotional the day before, like just mad emotional, like arguing about a whole bunch of nothing. And this was like late April, early May. No, I found out I was pregnant in May. I got pregnant in April, but I found out I was pregnant in May because, in the words of King, me and my husband, like, we love us from each other. And we were boom all the time. Like, we went to Atlantic City, had a great time. And you can ask my homegirl JoJo, like, every time she knocked on the door, she like, y'all doing it again? And it. So, I know that's when I got pregnant. This right here, this is my eldest child, my little Liam BM Bear. I love him. So, I was living with my mother at the time when I found out I was pregnant. And I love my mother up and down, but we all have family members that, you know, we love them, but you gotta go over there. And me and my mom, we was just like coming to that point in our relationship. It's like, it's just time for me to go. So when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, oh no, I'm not bringing another kid in your house. Like, absolutely the fuck not. No. So I packed me and my son up and we went to the shelter. This is the shelter. This is our first night in the shelter. So we stayed in the shelter for we went to the shelter May. Literally the day after I found out I was pregnant, I went to the shelter. Because literally, like, the day that I found out I was pregnant, me and my mom got into an argument. I'm just like, oh no, I cannot bring a baby into this. Like, you gonna stress me the fuck out. So the next day, which was a Friday, and I remember it, the 22nd, May 22nd, I packed me and my baby up and we went to the shelter. My baby was so excited because he was like, oh, I'm just so happy to be here, because it was just real tumultuous living with my mother. Like, I love my mom. Like, I don't have nothing bad to say about my mom, but we just can't live in the same house. Like, I understand everybody and their trials and tribulations and stuff and how they was raised and born and stuff like that, but I don't have to deal with that. So, like I said, me and my baby, we was out of there. Now, I stayed in the shelter till from May to literally August 4th, and then I had to get up out of there. The shelter was fairly new and it was fairly clean and I liked it, but they had a roach situation, like, and I couldn't deal with that. I'm not saying, like, listen, I'm from Brownsville, Brooklyn. I'm not a stranger to a roach. I'm not one of them people, oh my God, roaches. I don't like them, but please. I used to wake up, go in my grandma's kitchen all the time, and it'd be big ass water bugs scurrying along, trying to get back under the counter. So I'm not stranger to a roach. But they had like mad roaches. So many roaches to the point where, like, I would have to pull the bunk bed away from the wall because they would be almost about to crawl on my son. Don't piss me off. So we stayed there, whatever. When I found out I was pregnant, I found out really, really, really early. This right here was my first ultrasound. See, it says 5 weeks and 5 days. Like, soon as I missed my period, I found out I was pregnant. Like, to the point where, if you look, there's no actual baby in the sack yet. So I thought something had happened when I went to because I told them, I was like, oh, I'm pregnant. I don't know how far along I am. I missed my period. This, that, and the third. They gave me an ultrasound or whatever. And when I went and got the ultrasound done, they like, well, the baby ain't make it in the sack yet. Like, so when they showed me this, I was like, oh my God, I had a miscarriage. And they was like, no, you didn't have a miscarriage. Your body is still you know, that pregnancy hormone HCG. It was still growing inside of me, like, and, you know, going accordingly to how it's supposed to. But I was so fast at trying to, you know, get proof that I was pregnant that the baby didn't even make it through my fallopian tubes into my uterus yet. The baby didn't even implant yet. So just take your vitamins, stay off your feet, you know, whatever. Just all precautionary stuff just to make sure that baby implants well. But the thing about it was, I was always scared throughout my entire pregnancy with my daughter because, you know, like, pregnancy hormones and, like, the feeling of pregnancy period is very similar to your menstrual. So, like, I cramped and I cramped and I cramped and I was always so scared. Like, I was in pain my entire pregnancy. And, like, literally, I was at the hospital more than most people, most pregnant women, like, in their pregnancy. So, like, I would often go and check on her because, like, I was just so scared. Like, I didn't want to lose my baby. I was so excited. Like, my son, by the time I got pregnant with my daughter, was 7. So for me, I'm like, oh, I ain't having another kid in 7 years. Like, that train has pulled out the station and left, and it's all the way to Callaway. So when I got pregnant with my daughter, I'm like, okay, this is it. Like, something in my spirit told me it was my daughter. Like, and I'm like, this is my baby. And regardless of what it was, I'm like, this is it. 2 kids and that's it. That's ghetto. Anything after that is ghetto. No judgment to nobody else who could do that. Y'all are troopers. Y'all got this. I can't do that. So like I said, I was always at the hospital checking on her. This is my 11-week sonogram right here. As y'all can see, let me see. Can I pinch myself? Oh. So as y'all can see right there, that's baby. That's baby in there. All of this is baby. And you see how the sack looks really like banana-ish? It was at this sonogram because I forgot. I was in a lot of pain and I was afraid that I was miscarrying. So of course I fly to the hospital and I'm like, whatever. So they check baby, everything. Baby's fine, baby's cool, everything. But we discover I have fibroids, and it was a fibroid, which was my fibroids was on the outside of my uterus, so it didn't like cause any issues with her per se. Well, with her pregnancy, she was fine, like, but it squished her. But at that point, they like, oh, well, you know, fibroids only grow up until like 12 weeks. So when you're pregnant, so like the 12th week. So they like, baby's gonna outgrow it or whatever, stuff like that. But this scared the shit out of me. I was like, oh my God, these fibroids are squishing my baby. Like, is it gonna be okay? Because I know I had a cousin that she dealt with fibroids and she wasn't able to get pregnant for a very long time because the fibroids would detach and squish the baby. But I didn't know shit about fibroids. But the type that I had was not a problem to me. And I remember my doctor. He was such a sweetheart. Now, my primary care doctor is with Montefiore. Like, if you know, you know. But my mom, she lived close to Lincoln Hospital because we lived in the Bronx, New York. So I found out around this time when he was telling me, like, you know, oh, you have fibroids and stuff like that, like, that I was high risk. Like, they tell me also, like, oh, you're high risk. So I'm like, fuck. Now, Montefiore, if you know, they have a bunch of buildings all over the Bronx. They have a bunch of, like, establishments everywhere. Where they would send me to go get my ultrasounds was different from where I had to go see my OBGYN and then getting different scans. It was just like in different buildings. And I'm like, well, if I'm high risk, I don't want to be all over the place like that. So I opted to just do my prenatal care at Lincoln Hospital. So I just stayed there. Not a bad idea because their prenatal was stellar. Like, I felt like they took really good care of me. It was just until after I had my baby that I didn't like the care that my baby received. But we gonna get there. And this is just another picture of, because he didn't give me the scans or whatever. He just showed me like, hey, get your phone. And I remember this doctor because recently when I had a miscarriage, he always like, come, let me show you, get your phone so you can take a picture. I love him. He's such the sweetest thing in the world. So this was just another photo of her, like, you know, back, like, I was just like so yeah. Sidebar, that's my man. Thank you to my man. I love him. We don't been through so much, but this is after I came back from the hospital a couple of days. So he came and checked on me. Like, this man was so scared of having a baby. Like, this is his first child. Like, it was funny as fuck to me. Like, cause he's like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I'm like, we fine, we cool. And then he kind of eased up and got around to it. But it's definitely gonna be a part 2 for this because this video is already 10 minutes long. So I'll be back with part 2. So, part 2 of how my baby passed away at 7 weeks old. So, like I explained before, during the last ultrasound, I found out that I was high risk. So, I just opted to stay with Lincoln, as you can see. So, the last ultrasound was 11 weeks. This one was at like around 13 weeks, which is like 2 weeks later. And again, cramping, all types of stuff, bleeding, everything. So I'm like, oh boy, let me go back to the hospital. So at this point, I was still in the shelter, but I still, as you can see, still kept going to Lincoln because I'm like, all right, that's where my prenatal care is at. So whenever I would call the ambulance, I would just tell them to take me to Lincoln. Now, at this point, I was living on Edward L. Grant Highway near, what's that, 174th. So it was like near High Bridge, but I still was like, no, take me to my hospital. So I came to the hospital. They checked baby girl out. She was fine. They like, yeah, you're just in pain. Like, but baby is fine. Baby's stopping. As you can see, the sac started opening up more because my fibroids started growing. Because I don't know if you can see it, like that little space, like maybe about 3 inches above the sac. That was the fibroid. And she started to outgrow the fibroid. As you can see, her little head. So far, so good. And about, I think like 2 weeks later, they did like different genetics testing and stuff like that. But before I went to go do her genetics test, I went on my own and I went to, what was it, Belly's 5D ultrasound. Because I'm like, I want to find out what my baby was. And they was like, the earliest that we could find out what your baby is like around 15 weeks. So I was like, all right, well, fuck it. I didn't want to wait for my ultrasound with my regular doctor because I'm like, I want 5D images. I want to see my baby. I want to know what she is or whatever because I just knew in my spirit that was my girl. And sure as shit, ancestors linked up together and gave me what I wanted. And there's my little girl. I was so excited, so elated. During this appointment with Belly's, they offered me a 5D imaging. They gave me like 18 images. They gave me regular ultrasound images, and I got a heartbeat bear with her heartbeat in it. I love that. I love it. I still have that to this day, and I'm so glad that I got it, because then I wouldn't have had my baby heartbeat. See my little pookie wookie bear? Now, when I seen these images, she looks like a normal fetus, and I'm like, okay, she's 15 weeks, so I know her skull is still separated, and then that's them like little indentations in between her head. So I'm like, okay, so far so good. She looked okay. Her ears look fine. Everything looks fine. Even when I went to her regular doctor's appointment, they were like, she looked fine. They gave me regular genetics testing, which followed after this appointment because, like I said, I just went ahead and went elsewhere and got this appointment done by Belly's 5D ultrasound. They're really good. I recommend them. They're somewhere in Harlem. I forgot. But just Google it. Now you can see my little Pookie. She got all her fingers, everything looks like it's growing well, everything. Like I said, following this appointment, I went back to Lincoln for my regular prenatal, and around this, 15, 16 weeks, stuff like that, between 15 and 20 weeks, they give genetics testing for like Down syndrome, autism, like all the common things that babies may do. Baby girl came back flying colors. She just wasn't at a risk for any of those things. Like, she was good. All right, fine. But it was something in my spirit that I was like, I don't know. I still just want to check on her just because how my pregnancy was going. Like I said, I was in pain. Shorty was straight. Now, fast forward a little bit. Once I found out I was high risk, I'm like, around that time, they was telling me also, like, most likely, you're going to have another C-section. When I had my son, I had a C-section because I was just in labor too long. His heart rate started to drop, and so did mine. So they were just like, all right, emergency C-section. So I was like, I don't want to go through that with her. Like, I'm already in a lot of pain. Like, my body's already stressed out, stuff like that. So I made the conscious decision against my better judgment to pack me and my son up and go back to mom's place. Because I'm just like, who's going to help me? Like, in the shelter system, if you know that you could only bring the people that you come in there with. And it was just me and my son. And it was a real weird situation because my husband didn't come with me to the shelter. At that time, like I said, we was both living at our parents' house or whatever. Like, so yeah, we was together, but we were separate. So I was just like, I can't do this by myself. So I packed up and I moved back to my mom's house. So this ultrasound right here was about 3 weeks after I moved back to my mom's house, because I moved back to my mother's house August 4th. So as you can see, the date on the ultrasound is August 20th. And I think this was just like a regular checkup that I had for her, because like I said, they checked babies for certain things. They wanted to check her heart. So that was one thing that kept coming back on the scan, like her heart. It was something about her heart. Like they wasn't too concerned about it, but they just like, a lot of babies have, situations with their heart. It looked like, they have calcium on their heart and stuff like that. So it could just be that situation. So they was literally scanning her heart through my stomach. So it was just like, we can't really see because it's going through your flesh, and I ain't never been skinny. So it's like it's going through all your layers of fat to the baby, and we can't really tell. So they just wanted to like keep monitoring her and stuff like that. But for the most part, baby girl was good. As soon as I found out what my daughter was, I already had her name for her, because me and her father already planned her name. And it was crazy because I actually lost a bet prior to even getting pregnant, because we was talking about having a baby before I was even pregnant. And I'm like, well, I'm not worried about it. And he was like, oh, if we have a girl, I want to name her, and I want to name her Chelsea. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I hate that name. I named her Nova. So I always referred to her by her middle name. But this set was my homegirl. Shout out to her, Claudia. When I found out what my daughter was, and I was like, okay, her name's going to be Chelsea Nova, she went and got these things made for me. I love it. I still have them to this day. I love it. This day, I remember I also had an appointment. It was, I want to say it was like September-ish. So like I said, I constantly went to the hospital, because if I wasn't checking up on her, I had my regular checkup. So this is sometime in September. And I remember taking this picture because I had went home and I sat in my computer chair and I was crying my eyes out. Because like I explained to y'all before, after the common genetics testing, it was just something in my spirit that kept talking to me, like, get further testing for her. So when I was having a conversation with the geneticist, when he was telling me about, when he gave me her other results, like prior to this appointment, he was just like, oh, there's other tests that we could give if you're not sure, you just want to make sure. And I was like, yeah, just give me whatever you got to do. So he was like, well, you got to come back and draw more blood. At this point, I'm just like, y'all take more blood than me than a vampire. Like, fuck it. Just do whatever you got to do. I just want to make sure that she's all the way straight. Whatever I got to do, I'm okay with that. So this day, I had went back for those results for it was like the NIP test. And usually this test is given early on in the pregnancy. I guess if they suspect something may be wrong with your baby or something like that. But it was done in like September. So like around this time, I'm like 6 months going into 7 months. Like, so I should have been had this test. This test come back that she has a high risk for trisomy 13. Now, I'm like, what the fuck is trisomy 13? I ain't have no clue about what trisomy, dynomy, none of that, mononomy, none of that. I didn't know what none of this stuff meant. Not knowing that, like, Down syndrome and things like that, those are trisomies. So, of course, me being me, when they told me that she had a high risk for this, I started Googling. So, trisomy 13 is basically when a child has 3 copies of the 13th chromosome. And I started looking at the different cases, and I'm going to spare you guys here, but if y'all want to, y'all can go look it up. There's like 3 different types of trisomy that a child could have. Trisomy 13 that a child could have. It could be full trisomy where they have 13, they have 3 copies of the 13 chromosome in every single makeup of their body and DNA, which causes great distortions. There could be translocation where it's actually like a genetic thing. And then something called mosaicism, where it's just like 3 copies of the 13th chromosome and it only affects some parts of the body. So with my daughter, of course, we didn't know. It was just a risk of it. So they was like, oh, you could do the amniocentesis test to find out. And I was just like, no. If you ever had a baby, you know what that is. And it's just like, no. You sticking a needle through my belly button to check shit. I'd rather wait it out and wait till she get born. So I remember this day, I was just like boo-hoo crying, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna keep it fake, I'm gonna wait. They gave her another scan to check her out, because you could see these things on the ultrasound. But come back for part 3, because it was another 10-minute video, so see you in the 3rd part. Part 3 of how my baby passed away at 7 weeks old. So like I was telling y'all in part 2, they gave her another scan following the results of that second geneticist test, the NIP test or whatever. Because usually, like I said, if you Google it, like I said, I'm going to spare you guys, but if you Google it, those babies have great distortions, which can be seen on ultrasound. It's like I told y'all when I went to go get the 5D ultrasound, baby girl looked very normal. Like, so, and I also shared those results with my doctor. Like, she looks normal. So they was even saying that, like, yeah, we just gave her a scan. She doesn't look like it. So the geneticist was like, it could be one of two things. It could be a false positive, or she could be mosaic, which means it didn't affect all parts of her body. And those babies have a higher, have a lower mortality rate and a higher longevity, right? Because usually babies with trisomy 13, that's like a death sentence. They usually don't make it to birth, and if they do, they don't live long after birth. It's great distortions. So just minimize myself. So as you can see here, they gave me another ultrasound to check her out, and everything looked normal. And then that's when the doctor was like, well, it could be one of two things, like, you know, the false positive, or she could be mosaic. So they was like, the only way to know is either do the amniocentesis test or wait till she's born and basically see. So me being mama being, I'm like, we just gonna have to fuck around and find out. Like, you're not doing that. Like, I don't want to risk having a miscarriage with her, especially this far along in the pregnancy. Like, I love my baby to death. Like, I'm just so attached to her. Like, she's moving, not breathing at this point, but she's a moving, thriving baby. Like, I feel her. Like, we're not gonna get rid of her, because even when, and I kind of sped past that part, but when the trisomy, the NIC test came back that she was at high risk, they was like, oh, would you consider termination? And I wanted to kill that geneticist doctor. And I was just like, are you dumb? Like, absolutely the fuck not. Even if she's born with whatever y'all say shit, like, I will figure it out. Like, I used to be a direct support professional for people with disabilities and stuff like that. If I could help other people, I could help my own child. Like, fuck you talking about? Don't play. So this was the scan where they basically gave that paperwork to it. Everything looked normal. Everything was fine. Everything is cool. They like, oh, you know, she looks good. She looks well. Like, she's thriving. So it's only one or two things. So I go on with my pregnancy because it is what it is, and it ain't gonna be what it ain't gonna be. Fuck it. I think this was before my baby shower, and I'm just like, all right, I let go of the idea that something was wrong. I like, of course, it's in the back of my mind, but I'm moving forward to her birth. Like, whatever's gonna be is gonna be. Like, I can't change it. So it is what it is. Now I'm back in the hospital again. Now this wasn't a regular visit. This was me being in pain and stuff, and I went to go check my baby. But again, she's fine. Nothing's wrong with her. Like, she's chilling. They just like, you're in pain, but she's okay. But of course, my paranoia has spiked since telling me that she has a high risk for trisomy 13. This weird thing that I never heard of. And then, like I said, once I Googled the images, I'm seeing these babies, and I was just like, just stress me out, will you? Like, the fuck? So, of course, I was doubling up my visits. Like, if I was going once a week, which I felt like I was going like once a week or at least every other week to the hospital, now we going like twice a week. Well, every little ache and pain, everything. If she ain't moved more than I wanted her to, I'm going. So fast forward a little bit, we're in December. This ultrasound was December 13th because after a certain point, they started giving me non-stress tests to just check her like every week because of her having this prognosis of possibly being, you know, trisomic or whatever. So the date on this was December 13th, 2021. I had my baby December 30th, so they actually scheduled me for induction for December 29th. But when I got there that day, when they was explaining everything to me, so, okay, I'm jumping ahead a little bit far. During this ultrasound right here, they told me, like, her stomach stopped growing, like her belly area stopped growing. So they had brought me back, and then they was like, okay, if you come back next week and it's still the same situation, we're going to actually induce you. And then that's what ended up happening. I came back. Everything else was going good with her, but her belly area was not growing. So they was like, all right, it's safer for her to come out than it is for her to stay inside you, because my due date with my daughter was January 17, 2022. But I was induced. I was scheduled to be induced December 29th. I get there December 29th with my husband. They put me in the room and everything starts to, they about to start getting me ready. I have like a slew of people coming back and forth, kind of weighing on my decision of being induced and going through, because they're like, oh, if you get induced, then you just going to go out with your pregnancy, however. And then I'm just like, I'm thinking about, I'm like, all right, I'm already high risk. She already has this possibility of being trisomic. And then we still have like this concern about her heart. So I'm like, I don't want to stress my baby out. So if anything, I already got cut for the first one. Fuck it. Like, I don't want to take her through that, like hard dropping and all that. Just fuck it. Just cut me. So they was like, okay, we'll give you a C-section. So instead of doing the induction on the 29th, they was like, all right, tomorrow morning, we're going to schedule you for a C-section. So I stayed overnight or whatever. They gave me the C-section. And then at 10:08 on December 30th, my baby girl was. So this is us when they put me in the recovery room. I already had her, and I'm looking at her. She was 5 pounds 10 ounces, and she was 19 inches long. Smallest baby I ever had, because my son, he was 7'6" and was like 21 inches long. He was damn near 2 feet. So she was just so tiny, and I'm looking at her, and for the most part, like, she passed every test during the delivery, like that they check before they let you take your baby or whatever. She's crying good. I mean, from the moment she came out, she was crying. Like, she had strong lungs. She was fine. She was breathing on room air. She was straight. Even the physicians and the surgeon didn't peep what I saw, but a mother knows. So, like I said, privy to my research that I did about trisomy 13, these babies, just like people with Down syndrome and stuff like that, they have features. They have particular features where they all look alike. My daughter's nose was blue. She had like a big heart shape. I thought it was a bruise, but it was like this big heart shape indentation on her forehead. And I'm like, she looks weird. And her fingers were extremely long. Like, her thumbs looked like index fingers. Like, they were extremely long. So I'm looking at her, I'm like, she looked weird. Like, and I'm looking at her ears. Like, one of her ears looked like they were underdeveloped. I'm looking at her toes, looking at her feet. Her feet look like very cushiony at the bottom. And this is something that a lot of children born with trisomy 13 deal with. They have something called rock a bottom foot. Google it. Like I said, I'm going to spare y'all. But basically, like, the foot is like the bone, instead of being arched, is like pushed out. So it looks chubby and fleshy in the middle. So I'm surveying my baby, and I'm like, she doesn't look right. So the whole time we was in the hospital, so, when you have a C-section, you stay a couple of days extra. So I'm looking at my baby, I'm changing her, stuff just looks really weird with her. But she's doing relatively well. So every time a physician come into the room, I'm like, y'all sure she okay? Like, they like, well, yeah, she's feeding and she's breathing on her own. Like, everything's fine and stuff like that. But still, like I said, I'm not know. So before they discharge you, they assess baby. They did the first assessment with her. She passed. It was fine. But then they come back and they do a more in-depth assessment of the baby, where they look at every single part of her. So I'm like, I believe my baby does have trisomy 13. Like, just from what I've researched and I know, and I'm looking at my child, and I'm like, now she did come out a little bruised because she was born relatively fast. They cut me at like 9:50. And because of the medicine that they gave me, the spinal tap, they was like, mom's heart rate is going to drop, so we got to be really quick. So they cut me at 9:50, and she was born at 10:08, so really quickly. So they bruised her because they was grabbing on her and trying to get her out really quickly. But I looked at my baby, and I'm like, I always say, like, she looked like a teddy bear in the face. Like, why does she look like that or whatever? So they did the assessment, and I forget what this lady's last name is because she was a Russian physician. Her name was Vanessa something, Khovsky, some shit, I don't know. But she was like, we're going to keep baby for further testing because, yeah, we believe that she does have trisomy 13. But with everything that they knew about trisomy 13, they like, we want to make sure that this baby don't pretty much pass away when you go home with her. Like, because these babies usually don't live long. But like I said, going back to how she was and thriving this whole time, but it was something that I knew, like, she wasn't really eating well. Like, I used to have to force her to eat. But come back, part 4. Part 4 of how my baby passed away at 7 weeks old. So she wasn't really eating. Like, she would eat some, but not really. Like, I would have to force her to eat and stuff like that. Like, she wasn't like eating. She would stay asleep all the time. Like, from the time I gave birth to, I think I had her on a Wednesday. By that, like, Saturday, like, she still wasn't opening up her eyes. Like, she wasn't trying to open her eyes. I'm like, is this baby just sleep the whole time? So I'm like, that's when it's just like starting to set in more. Like, yeah, I believe my baby girl got trisomy 13, because I'm like, she's just not acting how a normal baby would act. And don't get me wrong, I know all babies are different, but I'm like, at this point, like, she should have at least been opening up her eyes. Like, only time she cried was, she cried a lot, but that was because I tried to put her down. Like, anytime I tried to put her down, lay her down, she would start crying, like, immediately. Like, but that has nothing to do with trisomy 13. My babies are just crying. My son did the same thing with me. Like, I could not put him down for nothing. Like, he would just start hollering. So, swallowed it on, just hollering. But for her, I'm just like, I would even like try to like physically take my fingers and open her eyes, but it was like she would feel me getting close to her eyes and she'll just like squeeze her eyes real tight. And I'm like, ugh, what's wrong? Like, why is she not opening her eyes? And I know a lot of babies lose a little bit of weight before they leave the hospital, but then like before this, by the time they leave the hospital, they gain. No, she just kept losing weight. Like, she had this issue with her sugar, her blood sugar. Like, she couldn't keep her sugar up. Like, she wasn't able to regulate her own body temperature, and that was like a issue that I didn't know was an issue at first until I got discharged. But before I got discharged, when they told me that, oh, you know, we're gonna keep baby for further assessment, that was on a Sunday. We were supposed to get discharged that Sunday, but they was like, we're gonna keep baby. So I was just like, oh my god, like, I don't want to leave my baby in the hospital. So the doctor was like, well, you can actually call your insurance and ask for an extra day, but after that, you're gonna have to go home. And that's what happened. I called, I asked them for an extra day. They allowed me to stay that Sunday, and then by that Monday, they was like, yeah, no, we still have to keep baby for further observation. Like, I was completely crushed, because I'm like, although I only had one child prior to her, when it was time for me and my baby to go home, we went home. So this was all new to me. Like, just her even having trisomy 13, I'm just like, okay, I have a special needs kid. Like, and that's fine. Like, that's completely fine. Because like I said, I'm believing it because I'm looking at her, but it's still like, I don't really believe it, because I'm like, she's okay though. So I thought. So this was that Sunday. Let me just show myself. This is my Sunday. Oh my god, like, when I say this little girl would not let me put her down, this was her the whole time. Like, just cuddle up with mommy, which I get, that's most babies. But and look at her little smile. She just snuggled up to me. I love my baby. This was that Sunday. So this is when they was telling me all these things. Like, I was so sad. Like, I was so distraught. Like, I had to call my mom. Like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I was in the hospital by myself, because they was giving my husband a hard time because he wasn't vaccinated. So, like, they was giving him a hard time with coming and, like, leaving the hospital. Like, whenever he would leave, they'd be like, all right, you can't come back. So I called my mom, and I'm just like, I know she was vaccinated. My mother is to the T when it comes to stuff. They tell you get vaccinated, she won't get vaccinated. So she was already vaccinated. So I called her. I was just like so distraught. I called her. I was crying. I was like, oh my god, my baby got trisomy 13. She do got it. Like, I was literally about to have a full blown panic attack. And it wasn't because they was telling me that she had trisomy 13. It was because they were telling me that she could not go home. And my brain just did not know how to process that information. Like, fuck you mean I can't take my child? Like, this is my kid. So rewind a little bit. Remember I told you that they had induced me. Well, they was planning to induce me because they like, it's safer for her to come out than it is for her to stay in you. Wrong. She was safer inside of me. Now, like I said, there's a lot of things going through my mind, but this like especially scared me because when I gave birth to my daughter, it was like a surge in COVID cases, and I'm just like, oh my god, me and my baby got to get out of this hospital. Like, I don't want us to get sick. Like, we got to get out of the hospital. And this is an important factor for later on. But I was just like extremely scared. So I was just like, it's nothing I could do. Like, I don't want nobody calling no ACS, CPS, nothing on me, because I'm like, oh no. Like, I was literally thinking about ways like, how can I smuggle my baby out this hospital? Like, I don't want her here. Like, I just didn't want her in the hospital without me. This is my little stinker butt. If y'all can see her little foot, it looked really fleshy. That was the rock and bottom foot, but you couldn't really. It was like everything with her was like really slight, but because I already did research after research after research, I knew what I was looking at. Like, all different parts of her. She had a head full of hair. So I think this was that Sunday going into the Monday, or the Saturday going into the Sunday before they told me all this. She was like trying to open her eyes. Like, but she wouldn't open them past this. Like, this is as much as she would open up her eyes. And I'm just like, what's wrong with this girl? So, fast forward to Monday, and I had to get discharged without her, and she ended up staying. But for me, they let me stay until like Monday night. So this is the Tuesday. Like, I had a C-section and everything. First C-section, I didn't give a damn. I was back at the hospital with my baby. Like, it was, my baby's whole life was in the hospital. Like, I never was able to take her home, but that didn't matter to me. Like, it didn't matter to me, but I was just like, I don't care. Like, if I gotta go to this hospital every single day, that's what I'm gonna do, and that's what I did. I literally missed 2 days from seeing my daughter, and while she was in the hospital before she passed away, because one, it was a bad snowstorm, and the second time it was just like I was so stressed out, I just could not make it to the, like, it was just too much. I couldn't make it to the hospital. As y'all can see, her forehead, like, she had like this little heart shape. I thought it was a birthmark. I didn't know what it was. Come to find out, it was actually like, I forgot what they call it. It was like a mole. Like, it was like a really large mole on the other side of her head. And a lot of times these babies I forgot exactly what they call it, but a lot of these babies have these, and it usually means like there's something going on with the brain. But thankful enough, like, my girl, she wasn't as bad as she could have been. But if you could see her, like she sometimes looking at her, like, she looked like a normal baby, but like I said, I knew what to look for. Like, she didn't have this indentation above her lip. Her lips were very little. Her chin was little. Her head was very little. She almost had a cleft palate. Like, so I just knew it was like certain things that was different with my baby. But she was still a beautiful baby to me. So, like I said, I had her December 30th. I was discharged on the 3rd. So between the 3rd and the 8th, she was in the hospital getting different tests done for her and everything, like just checking on her. Like, so it was a lot of different things that was I'm not gonna say wrong, it just wasn't normal with my daughter. Like, it was a lot of things that they were looking out for. So the issue with her eyes, like, she had deep-seated eyes, so her eyeballs were actually very tiny. Like, she had eyeballs. At first I thought that my baby ain't have no eyes, and I was like, no, my baby got eyes. I know she got eyes because I seen them, but her eyes were deep-seated. They were little. And she had something called coloboma with her eyes. So this is the only way I know how to describe. You know, like Rick and Morty, like if you look at their eyeballs, they look like little squiggly and stuff like that. That's how her pupil was. So she had coloboma. I think she had cataracts in one of her eyes. Her ear, she was deaf in one ear. Because that was the thing, like, she was failing certain tests. That's what made her stay in the hospital, because she kept failing the ear test in one of her ears. I think it was her right ear. She was deaf in her right ear. So she kept failing that test. They couldn't see her eyes. They checked her spine. Her spine was very long, like, and that's something that I realized myself, because she even had like this dimple at the very bottom of her back, like towards her butt. And I was just like, I thought my baby had 2 buttholes, but it was just a dimple, but it was really deep. And they said like that she had like an elongated spine, which further on in her life, it would have caused an issue with her being able to walk and stuff like that. But everything that they was checking my daughter out for, they were just like, she could pretty much go home and we could see her as an outpatient. Like, her eyes, they was like, oh, she could go to the, the ophthalmologist out, as an outpatient. She could go see about her spine. Nothing was like immediate. Nothing was urgent. So, like I said, that whole week she stayed in the hospital, and they was actually planning on discharging her because we had a family. I think that was what day was that? I think it was the 7th. It was January 7th. We had like a family meeting with like a whole team, like the cardiologist, everything. Like, even her heart, they was like, her heart, a part of her heart was like, a leaflet of her heart was like a little underdeveloped, but they said it was still doing the job that it was supposed to do, so they wasn't really concerned about that. They like, she could see the cardiologist outpatient and things like that. So pretty much for the most part, like, she was pretty okay to come home with me. Like, they just like, she was gonna need like an array of services going home. Like, you just gotta make sure you go to all her appointments, outpatient. I'm just like, fine, that's no problem. So, like I said, we had a family meeting with her whole team on the 7th, and it was pretty much just letting me know, like, oh, she's gonna need SSI, she's gonna need all these different resources, stuff like that. And I was like, all right, no problem. Like, they had me fill out everything I needed to fill out, and it was cool. But come back for part 5, because another 10-minute video. Part 5 of how my daughter passed away at 7 weeks old. So, like I said, they were just letting me know everything that I'm gonna have to do moving forward, like to take care of her. And I'm like, that's not a problem. Like, I did this for like strangers when I worked as a DSP. Like, it was so closely related. And I'm just like, okay, fuck it. Like, put on your mom cape and you gotta do what you gotta do for your daughter. Like, you know, this is what you've been pretty much working up to this whole time. Like, when I worked as a DSP, I took so much pride in it because I'm just like, people are trusting people like me to take care of their special needs children, and it's just like, I would do right by them. Like, I did right by them because I'm like, one day I could have a child like, and this was that day I had a child like that. So I was just like, yeah. So like I said, they was just letting me know, like, they was giving me all her results, like, for the ophthalmology. They checked her brain, because usually babies with trisomy 13 have, like, one big brain. Not her. She had two hemispheres of her brain, and everything was pretty much functioning the way it was supposed to. So they was just like, okay, most likely she's probably mosaic. So we're just going to deal with her as an outpatient. And I was like, all right, cool. Now, this was the 7th. 7th was a Friday. No, I'm wrong. That was the 6th. Was it? No, the 7th was a Friday. The 8th was Saturday. So this and things kind of took a turn for the worse. So this was the last day, like, that she was like semi-okay. Like, this was the last day I visited her. I think this was that Saturday. They was constantly checking her because when I got discharged, I left her in the nursery, but they was like, because they wanted to monitor her and keep an eye on her, they put her in the NICU. They was like, she's not sick, but that was something that I was just like, I don't like that idea, because if you're putting her around other sick babies and stuff like that, she could get sick. Like, I just didn't like that idea because, like I said, she was relatively okay. She was breathing on room air. She didn't need like life supplement or anything like that. She didn't need nothing to help her breathe. And that was different for a baby like Chelsea. So I'm just like, okay, like, so I came every single day. Every day I was there because she was still in Lincoln. I came every single day to check on her, bring her breast milk. I would read to her, just doing regular mommy things that I would do if she was home. So by the time I left Saturday, they was just like, oh, you know, she has a little bit of a fever, stuff like that. But we're watching her. She's okay for the most part. Like, her fever will go up and down. So they ended up testing her for a whole bunch of stuff. And her test came back Sunday morning. So as you can see, they tested her on that Saturday. So they tested her for a whole bunch of shit. Like, regular coronavirus, all that stuff she didn't have. Like, SARS and all that. But then as you can see, she tested positive for corona PCR. And now I'm just like, oh my God, this is exactly what the fuck I did not want to happen. Like, my 9-day-old baby has COVID. Like, now I'm ready to tear Lincoln down because how? So they come calling me Sunday morning on the 9th, like, oh, well, we tested Chelsea for a whole array of stuff because she had a fever and stuff like that. So we just wanted to inform you that she has tested positive for COVID. My whole world felt like it shattered because, fuck you mean, my 9-day-old daughter has COVID. Like, she already have all these like she already have these preconditions with her already. Like, she don't need fucking COVID. Like, if you look it up, trisomy 13 is extremely rare. Like, it's more rare than Down syndrome, Edwards syndrome, shit like that. Like, it's extremely rare. I think it's like 1 in 400,000 babies. Like, she was very rare. Now, something I knew that was going to be an issue was the fact that she was a trisomic baby and now she has COVID. Two things that never been together before, ever. My baby was a medical anomaly now because she has trisomy 13. And like I said, she was on a better end of the scale, but now she has COVID. And so it's like, how the fuck do you treat a baby with trisomy 13 who has now contracted COVID? So they come calling me, like I said, oh, you can't come back and see her until you test negative or whatever like that. So that's what I went because I was just like, oh my God, like at this time, like I said, this is 2022 at this point. It was the beginning of 2022, but you know, the pandemic had just started in 2020. So Lincoln had free COVID testing in front of their building. So I went ahead and I got tested. This was like the fastest thing that I could find, but it was just something in my spirit that was just like, I don't trust it. I don't want to go get tested through Lincoln. Like, I feel like they doing funny shit. So against my better judgment, like I said, it was quick. It was right then and there. So I'm like, I need to be able to go back and see my baby. So I went and I did the test with Lincoln, the COVID test with Lincoln. And I waited for my... Now these are my chart results. Now, I get it. Some people could be asymptomatic and stuff like that. But the way that they did that testing, like everything was everywhere. Like every day they had everybody lining up, and it was just like the way that they did it, it was kind of organized. But I'm just like, there's no way in hell that you're able to keep track of all of them COVID tests the way that y'all taking them. So like I said, I know some people could be asymptomatic, but I'm like, I don't have fucking COVID. I know I don't have COVID. So I went and I got a second opinion because I'm like, this is bullshit. Because when they seen this, they was like, oh yeah, we see your result in the system. You can't come back to see Chelsea or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Trying to basically say that I gave my baby COVID. Bullshit. So this very day that I got these results back, I went elsewhere to go get another result. And I went to another clinic and I got these results and they came back, I think on the 13th or the 14th or something like that. The 14th, because I was tested on the 13th. 14th or 15th, I got it back. So, yeah, so I'm just like, okay, that's bullshit. So I went and I took these results back to Lincoln because y'all gonna let me see my motherfucking. So when I get there, where am I? So when I get there, it was this doctor that was working with my daughter, and I couldn't stand her. Her name was Dr. Rebecca Pollock. I cannot stand her because she was very disrespectful. If you ask me, she was very racist. And she just, I feel like it was no real level of care when it came to my daughter. So this was when I came back or whatever, like they had my baby in like an isolated room away from the other babies. And I didn't like that she was behind glass. I couldn't see her, I couldn't touch her, I couldn't feel her. They had her in this incubator. And that's how they was dealing with her pretty much through the armholes. Like, people were getting fully suited and booted to deal with her, and I didn't like that because I knew my baby, like, she liked to be held. So that was just like really difficult for me to just watch her, like, and then like she would be crying and I'm just like, they're not immediately going to her, and I'm just like, I don't like that because she had a nurse that was like, she was stationed with her, so I didn't like that or whatever. So it was during this visit that fucking Dr. Pollock bitch, she come, I guess somebody must have told her like, oh, mom's here or whatever. This is the first time that I ever considered punching a doctor in their face. She come, first of all, she always kept mislabeling my daughter, talking about, oh, he. I'm like, that's a little fucking girl. Like, how do you not know what your patient is? Like, and that pissed me off. So that's just making me think you're not dealing with her the way that you're supposed to be dealing with her because you don't even know who the fuck you dealing with. And she comes, she's like, oh, you're going to have to leave, mom. Da-da-da, they said you tested. I said, I already showed them my negative results, so don't come with that bullshit. So this bitch decides to be funny. She's standing in the hallway. She's about 10 feet away from me. Now, for the most part, like I said, we're on the NICU floor. So other people coming to see their babies or whatever. Do you know this bitch sat there and was telling my baby's business literally in the hallway because she felt like she didn't want to approach me or get close to me because she felt like I still had COVID or whatever. I'm like, I don't have fucking COVID. That was a false positive. So she's literally giving me information about my daughter in the hallway, like, oh, her prognosis is low, pretty much telling me to give up on my daughter. And I'm just like, I'm about to fuck you up. And it was one point I was just like, miss, to my, oh, it's doctor. I said, I'm about to call you a bitch. So take miss and get out my face. Like, it was just, I didn't like the way that she dealt with me when it came to my daughter. Like, it was just like, you was just waiting for her to hurry up or die or something like that. And that's what it felt like after this point. Like, my daughter immediately started to digress after this point. So like I said, that was like around the 14th or whatever that happened, which come to find out later on, because there was a lot of things that was wrong with my daughter that they did not tell me about. They didn't tell me from, which made sense. Like, you know, because her eyes were so little and stuff like that, they kept having to touch her eyes, so she ended up contracting pink eye. It was a lot of stuff that she started to contract, and I did not know about it. Like, they just didn't tell me about it. So it was literally until after she passed away that I found out a lot of things, because the hospital that she passed away in was not Lincoln. So this right here is 4 days later after I brought my second COVID result. So that day was the 14th. This is the 17th going into the 18th. So they pretty much called me, like, within them 3 days, my baby started to like really deteriorate in her health. At first she was still breathing on her own and things like that, but then it got worse. So they gave her a CPAP machine. And then after a while that wasn't working. Like, so they had to eventually intubate her. So basically this is the Lincoln nurses and stuff like that dealing with her, checking her vitals or whatever, because it got to the point where they like, okay, mom, like, they was telling me that she had congestive heart failure, all type of shit, which was not correct. They gave me a lot of misinformation, and again, that's why I said it just gave me the sense that they did not know who or what they was dealing with. Like, I still to this day feel like they was mixing up my baby charts or other, and just didn't give me the quality of care that she deserved. But come back for part 6.